Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU, Big 12, and realignment. And of course, we've just finished week one of college football. And with me tonight, I've got Adam to do our weekly recap of the BYU game and also look ahead at this week's game, as well as do our picks for across the Big 12. And before we get started, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, because we're going to do this throughout the season, as well as our weekly Know the Foe, where I bring on a guest to come on and give us a little bit of insight into BYU's opponents of each week, as well as we're going to go live after the games each week to kind of recap and do what I've dubbed kind of Saturday's Night Fever, do a late night review of the game and instant reaction. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, and so you can catch all of those videos. But Adam, so to start us off, give me one word of your reaction, kind of summarize week one, the game against SIU.
Relief. It was relief. We haven't seen a game like that in over a year. I felt like all phases of the game were pretty good. There's always stuff to clean up in week one, but my goodness, you watch Retzloff throw a ball that travels 60 yards in the air and drops into JoJo Phillips' hands, and you're nearly in tears with relief that we've got an offense that's moving the ball, and we were a D1 football club out there rolling over a really good FCS opponent. So relief for me. That was fun to watch.
That's a good word. That's not one that came across my mind. I was going to go with if I had to do one word, I was going to say optimistic. I was really thinking cautiously optimistic, but then Trevor Maddich said that on Sports Nation, and I thought, oh, shoot, I don't want to copy that. And so I was trying to think of another word, but that's really where I came down. But I was also thinking dog, and that was mostly because of Jay Hill, man, that guy. And showing up after having a heart attack and then operations. I don't know what all it entails. Maybe you do. It says they put a couple stents in his heart. I assume they're going to have to operate on their heart. They have to make incisions, right?
So just some small incisions, usually in the wrist, and they go travel up the veins there to the heart and place the stents.
Oh, through the wrist. Okay, that's wild. Okay, so
yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Now we know. Well, yeah, I saw everyone like hugging him and stuff. I was like, easy. Watching the video, I was. But that's still wild. I don't know. Again, what all that entails. Also on Thursday, my wife had an operation, not too serious, but still just on the pain meds alone, kind of had her wiped out. So to see him there and functioning, I was like, man,
it's amazing what they can do with heart attacks now. It really is. And so it enables that quick recovery where he can at least be present at the game. Relief is usually instantaneous. And then you're just monitoring to make sure he's okay. I'm not a doctor, by the way. Anybody's listening, I'm a healthcare administrator, so I work around this stuff a lot. But yeah, it was pretty cool to see him at the game and back on his feet doing well.
Yeah, wild. I was going to say, like, I don't know if attending a football game is the best way to keep your heart rate, in check.
Right?
He's probably going to be watching at home anyway. So
yeah.
I suppose he probably felt better at least being there, even if he wasn't on the call. But so and I think I saw some of that in the team. Like they showed up, they had a different energy about them this year than last year. It seemed like last year they kind of came out with a lot of confidence and quickly got punched in the mouth, and they had no answer for it. And that continued from game to game. And it felt like they, even if they had some big moments and some early wins and felt like, okay, we can pull this together, it still felt like they were kind of grasping at straws. Whereas this year they came out and there were a few things like I imagine everybody had the delay a game or whatever. It wasn't showing. We had the screen. It was waiting, so we missed the beginning of the game. And right as it kind of came on, there had been some sort of fumble or whatever. I was like, oh no, not already. But they recovered the ball and then, just kind of push forward and move forward with the game plan, recovered and stayed confident throughout the game. The defense was playing with more confidence. So I kind of saw that throughout the team. And it felt like, as we were talking about last week in the quiet confidence aspect of it, it felt like maybe there was something to it.
Yeah, yeah, it seems so that preparation and that attitude they've had throughout fall camp that everyone's been talking about, they really showed it there. They'll need two more throughout the season, right? They've certainly passed the test week one,
Yes.
but boy, they've got a really tough schedule moving forward. So it was fun to see us be competitive there. The question will be in week two, for example, great test to see where are we at against a really good ACC opponent in SMU. And then, of course, you got the gauntlet of the Big 12 schedule. So they've got more tests coming up, but it was great to see them come out there, and it looked like a very competent team in all phases of the game, handling their business against an FCS level opponent. So I don't want to say that, yeah, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna win 8, 9, 10 games, but we're gonna go out there, we're gonna be competitive. And we're going to be able to battle some tough teams, especially with home field advantage at LES. That we always do well those night games. You could foresee a couple upsets are now possible with this team, just because they showed that level of talent, that level of execution.
Yeah, I was really impressed. So, I mean, well, let's get into it. So, what were your major takeaways? You start with one, and then I'll kind of share one. We'll go back and forth. Tell me, what are your major takeaways from the game after you?
Yeah, I think number one's got to be Retzlaff. I mean, that was just a very, very impressive game. He's got an unorthodox release, kind of an unorthodox stance. I don't know footwork well enough to say where he's at, but he throws the ball, and I'm like, man, that's just it comes out like a rocket. And it's a really quick release, and it's almost unexpected the way he throws, and he almost looks off balance when he's throwing. But man, he is on target. The arm strength was incredible. I don't think I ever saw that last year. For him to go that deep with the ball multiple times, and then you've got receivers like Keelan Marion and JoJo Phillips and Chase Roberts who can go get it. So Jake Retzlaff was for me number one. He looks the part of a solid D1 quarterback. How good he's going to be against higher level competition, I don't know, but he can make all the throws, and he can hit those open receivers. He can make the easy throws that he was missing last season. So the improvement's evidence in Jake Retzlaff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's obviously, I think that was what most people were looking for, was they wanted to see QB play. How did he do? Did he really show improvement? And does he look like he can hang? And I think again, I go back to this cautiously optimistic. I think he showed people that at the very least, he didn't prove our worst fears. And so again, it's going against an FCS opponent. So there's only so much we can glean from it, because there's a lot of passes he was making that, those some tight windows and things that might not quite be there against some other opponents. And so we'll see if he's able to continue to take care of the ball. But I liked this chart, looking at this, at where, the ESPN QBR rating and where they came off, and looking at that, as well as the PFF offense grade. And he's up here in this upper right quartile, what's the word I'm looking for? Quadrant. Thank you. So, and a good place to be in, with, in good company. Now, again, this is one game, and so it doesn't necessarily prove anything, but it definitely showed, okay, he's got the arm, he's got the touch. And like you pointed out last week, he's a gamer. He's not just going to go out there and manage games. Like he's going to push and push it downhill. And so I guess I guess my addition to this, because that was obviously one of my biggest takeaways too, is I was a little worried. Our first drive, I believe it was the first drive, but we scored, but it took a lot of plays. And I don't have that in front of me, how many plays, but we had to move. We had to go for a fourth down twice. And I think we got bailed out on another time on a PI. I think that was the same drive. And so it just took a lot to get all the way down there. And we did some of that against, later in the season. I thought, okay, that works right now against the FCS opponent. But if that's like the only way we can have sustained drives, we're going to at some point need chunk plays. And then the very next drive, he kind of silenced that with that pass to JoJo Phillips, which actually I have here somewhere. Which window is it? I think it's this one. Just so everyone.
I just can't believe how high the ball goes. When he released that, I was shocked. I felt like he was throwing it up like it was going to travel 20 yards because it went so high. He drops it down 60 yards in the air.
It just fit in there beautifully.
Yeah, it was that was my favorite play I've seen from a BYU game in a couple years. I was shocked to see that the athleticism from JoJo Phillips to get open, um, and how deep that was. Again, you're playing against FCS level competition. Take it all with a grain of salt. Um, but the receivers certainly looked the part, and you hope to see a lot more of those chunk plays, if nothing else throughout the year. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we know, and he had another one to Marion later, which
Hmm.
Marion bailed him out a little bit with because he had to go get
He
it.
wasn't quite as spot on with a couple others, right? He had one to Roberts, he had one to Marion. They were deep, and they kind of had to scramble for it, dive for it. But he threw it up where his receiver could get it. I mean, the one to Marion was in triple coverage, and he allowed Marion to outrun the three and snag it. So just fun stuff to watch. Those are super exciting plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying is I don't know if all of those are going to be available, or but I going against tougher opponents, but I do have a lot of confidence in the receivers. One other thing, they showed this during the game, which we all saw, was Jake looking at that, and I remember seeing that graphic too ahead of time. I was like, yeah, I wasn't surprised that that's where they had him, and just the way everyone's talking. And obviously, he didn't really give anybody a reason to think otherwise based on his performance at the end of last year. But I was hopeful. I felt like he showed enough that if, going through the John Beck treatment and, working off season, that I felt like, okay, if they're doing all that they say, he probably, I felt like there's a chance he can put it all together. So
Yeah.
I was impressed with that. And yeah, so anyway, very pleased. We'll see this week. He's obviously got a tougher test ahead of him, but he's definitely put us, like you said, there's some relief and put some people at ease and thinking, okay, so now we continue this. Because if he's able to play at that level and still find those holes, like we're definitely, I would say BYU is definitely going to be able to make a bowl game if he can maintain that level of play against tougher competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, okay, so one of my aside from Jake Retzlaff, is one of my big takeaways was we still have trouble with mobile quarterbacks. Now, everybody's, pretty happy because it's like, look, I mean, this is nuts. The stats here, they have the team total 123 yards, 121 of them are DJ Williams, which is great because it's like, wow, we made them really one dimensional. On the other hand, uh, their quarterback ran for 121 yards, and so that's a little disconcerting for me. I've seen some people say, you can scheme against that, and that's something that's fixable, which I believe, and I believe in Jay Hill, and that's something they can work on. But we struggled against mobile quarterbacks last year, and if we face a couple of them again this year, and so that is a concern of mine as we, are going to go deeper into the season, and or even with this next week, is being able to kind of shut down that aspect of the opponent's offense.
Yeah, and I see that problem continuing, to be honest. We struggled with it last year. It's not fixed this year. You can't scheme against it, certainly. But in modern day college football, the rules favor the offense so much. It as a defense, it's almost like a pick your poison. And so our defense shut everything down except for the QB run game, and I'm okay with that. And so if we have trouble with mobile quarterbacks, but we're able to stuff the run and play great pass defense, okay, I'm okay with it. The offense is going to score points in 2024. It's just the nature of the game because it's more exciting. I think the rules are built around that because it's a better product on the field. And so I think, especially as a BYU defense where you're still growing and you're still finding your identity, there is going to be a sort of pick your poison type mentality. Or I shouldn't say mentality. I'm sure they go into every game thinking they're going to shut down every facet of the game. But as a fan, I'd rather see the quarterback run for 100 yards than the running back because then they've got play action opening up and they're going to hit us. They're going to gouge us with a deep ball, or have a team come out and throw for 400 yards against us and not be able to stop the pass. And so to me, it's sort of a pick your poison. It is a concern, but I'm much more comfortable with that than not being able to stop the run game, period, or not being able to play pass defense. And so it is a level of concern for me, but I've got to watch how this defense evolves over the season to see how that inability to stop the quarterback run game impacts the other areas on the field. If Jay Hill's going to go and say, I'm selling out, I'm stopping the running back run game, and I'm going to play great defense in the secondary. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like you said, if the defense has priorities, and then maybe that's a secondary or tertiary priority for the team, and they know, hey, we have these other elements we have to focus on first. I mean, yeah, you're probably right on that. So thanks. You make me feel a little bit better.
That's right. Here to salve the wounds. That's
okay. How about you? Any other big takeaways?
Just on the same lines with the defense, I was really impressed with the secondary. Love the pass, because you look at FCS. When I look at FCS schools or FCS teams, they all have athletes that are D1 athletes in some area. They just don't have an entire team of D1 athletes, unless you're like North Dakota State, right, or some of these premier FCS schools that really dominate. Most of them have some element of their game where they have D1 athletes. And to me, it was the wide receivers and it was the quarterback for this team. I didn't think so much the offensive line, the running backs, the defense, but certainly their wide receivers were 6'1", 6'2", fast, good wide receivers, and we shut down that passing game. So that was really encouraging. That's what I'm really excited to see this next week at SMU, because you're going to see that times 5, right? They're great offense. But if our secondary showed that much promise, that much hope, where we can really impact the passing game there, then it opens up a lot of opportunities for us to win some games. So I'll be watching that closely, but I was really impressed with the secondary.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And from what I understand, it's hard to track all the substitutions and everything when you're just watching on the screen. But from what I understand, they were subbing in and out a lot of different players, and giving a lot of guys playing time too. So the fact that they were able to do that while still getting these younger guys reps and using that depth that we've heard about, right, and getting people out there is a good sign. So again, it's an FCS team, but I will say, it is, they're a good FCS opponent, and for what it's worth, I liked this graphic here. Was basically SIU beat Northwestern, Northwestern beat Utah, so twice. So basically,
there you go. You can mail it in, the Utah game's victory.
I saw somewhere else too that I can't remember, but just comparing like the FCS opponent that SMU played this last week was, compared to SIU and where they were. I can't remember specifics, but basically that it was a significantly there's a huge gap between the quality of teams there that we're facing. So I guess if that reassures anybody out there, I guess we can take that for what it's worth. But I think that I'm definitely encouraged by what I saw with the secondary, and the defense in general just kind of played with, I think, some swag. Like they felt like, confident going out there. And and I think that's just the nature of year 2 under Jay Hill. And it's really starting to take form, and he's still, trying to fill out that depth, get some more of, his guys in there. But see him go. And we were promised a lot about Jack Kelly this season. And he didn't disappoint you. He heard his name called quite a bit over the course of the game. Trying to look at stats here, but
yeah, he is fast and strong. I think he was our leading tackler.
Yeah, with 5.
Fun to watch. The team looked disruptive. Tackles for loss, couple sacks. Everybody's going to say, you want to see more? You want to see more? Yeah, I hear that. I want to have a 7-sack game too, but we got a couple sacks. We're not dead last in sacks for the collegiate ranking so far. That's great. It was off to a good start. Again, understanding the level of opponent, that's what you want to see. Take care of business.
Jackson Robinson with another interception, and now he was credited with one that probably didn't catch last year because the camera couldn't quite catch the angle. And then This one, there might have been a little push off, but that was to, I guess,
That was it's more than a little push off. I felt like that was a makeup for them offering
for,
them a 38-yard catch that they dropped, or I can't remember if their fumble call was before or after that horrendous fumble call where he makes a move, switches hands with the ball, then drops it, and it's not a catch. So there were some questionable calls by the ref, but that's one that Jackson Robinson shoved his guy to the ground, picked off the ball. So it was the Wild West out there. I felt like.
yeah, but he, it also makes up for the one that Harrison Taggart had like in the numbers and dropped. So
Yes.
But yeah, so about that, so on the live stream, so I had started the game, I had to pause, and I was playing catch up throughout the game, and so I'm skipping ahead, and I was watching through Hulu, which I think it's kind of clunky doing it on the TV to skip ahead, and so I had missed most of the replays. I saw one replay on that the catch that probably shouldn't have been a catch, and I couldn't tell that much. I heard the crowd, but I was really trying to catch up at that point because I wanted to catch up to real time, and talked about it a little bit in the live stream after the game. And I heard about it a little bit in the comment section that they're like, I don't know what they showed at home, but that was definitely, I mean, so I went back and rewatched a lot of the game, and I rewatched that part specifically. And yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I just didn't watch all those angles. And when I had seen it initially, I was like, oh, it looks close. I could see why people wouldn't be happy. But watching the replay, yeah, it definitely.
That's what I thought. The first two angles, I thought, oh, that's probably catch, or it doesn't matter. The camera angle doesn't show it. They showed the third angle. I thought, oh, yeah, he clearly dropped that. And they didn't let us call timeout. They were screaming on the sideline for a timeout. They should have reviewed it proactively.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is what it is.
The other one wasn't as egregious. I do think he had control. When you're able to switch arms and start moving, like that looks like a football move to me. But I mean, he never like had it like super secure, but that's more on him. Like he was going, and I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
I felt like his first move, he had the ball to his chest, makes a move, then switches and drops it. To me, it was pretty clear, but I'm not a referee. I don't know where they're pulling those rules out from. So.
Okay, so you're not a doctor, you're not a referee. Why are you?
I'm not of a lot of things.
Okay.
Later on, I'll reveal what I
am. So yeah, I guess yeah. I was gonna say one other thing that stood out to me was that finally, so each week, and I did this last year too, for my thumbnails for the videos of the know the foe, I pick a player from each team to kind of highlight on the thumbnail going into it. And last year, like I would choose like Isaac Rex and he'd have a dud of a game or whatever. This year I had Chase Roberts, and for SIU, I had Colin Bohannon, who led his team with 12 tackles. And I mean, just
there you go.
I feel like
the curse has become a blessing.
Yeah. So now I'm thinking, okay, who am I going to put on for this week? Because my thought is that after last week, everyone's going to be eyeing Chase Roberts, but Darius Lassiter is back, man.
He is. Yeah, that'll be exciting. He's going to be hungry. Yeah, he's going to be hungry for a big game.
A lot of the defense might be queuing in on Roberts, but and not to mention all our other receivers, but because I think Darius Lassiter, Roberts is probably safely probably wide receiver 1, but I think Darius Lassiter is right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good. Any other big takeaways from the weekend?
Just to see the general attitude of the team, like you said, there was a lot of composure, a lot of confidence. We'll see how that parlays into future weeks, but it's all talk in training camp until it comes out onto the field, and it really translated. At least for one game, it really came through on the field. They look great. You compare that team to last year, totally different feel, totally different vibe, both sides of the ball. A lot of composure, knew what they were doing, attacked the ball. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I would say last two things, these aren't major takeaways. Just quick observation: the running game is improved, still not there. And
yep,
LJ Martin, no surprise. I mean, I like what the addition of or what Rapati brings, and he was jacked, by the way. I had heard that he really was, and so I mean that's great for the blocking. Yeah. We're just like you just want to start wearing down that defense. That's great, but really LJ Martin is just on another level, I think, than the running backs. And then The other thing was this is obvious, but special teams just needs to clean it up a little bit. Like 3 muffed returns.
The muffed returns was bad. I don't mind even the missed field goal so much. You
Because
want
then
to
he
see
came
that
back
from
and kicked
36 because he
even.
comes back and hits a 50-yarder. So that doesn't concern me as much. But the punts, man, that'll turn the tide of a game in a heartbeat. You can't have that. So
We got really lucky.
yeah, big time. And it's funny because we had set up really good returns on those muff punts, which is why we were allowed to recover them because no one was there. We had set up this awesome return and muffed the punt. So they'll get that cleaned up. I mean, it's game one stuff that happens throughout the season. You got to be really concerned, but I think they'll get that cleaned up. That's certainly concerning.
Yeah. So yeah, no, not a big major thing. The other thing, and I had the graphic, I just lost it, but the BYU is still, their projection in conference is, and this is by the Kelly Ford, his ratings, but still only gives them about 2.9 wins in conference, which in addition to this and potentially, Wyoming still puts them at basically, well, I guess that's 4.9. So that's
5.
that's right at the 4, above the 4.5, So it didn't change much statistically, but I think the confidence level of this team is hopefully a lot higher, and hopefully they don't say, "Oh yeah, we had this great game." If they're locked in the way they were, and it seems like they have been throughout training camp, if they're able to maintain that, I think that is going to continue. Which brings us right into, let's go ahead and look at our picks for this next week, and we can kind of talk about here. Let me pull this up. What our expectations for the SMU game. So here we go. All right. So here are our picks, our Big 12 picks. Obviously, looks like Adam, who do you have winning this weekend? Let's see. That first game. Shoot. Is that,
can you see? It's kind of small on there.
Yeah, I need to zoom. Forgive it's been a little hectic here, so forgive the graphic. I'll hopefully have something better going forward. This is the best we got for now. But so again, I think if they carry with that confidence going into this next week, I think BYU stands a chance. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I think SMU, I think they're going to be well-matched teams. And this is the type of game that if BYU really wants to turn the corner, they have to have this. And so I have to go with the Cougars on this one.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for BYU to take a step to an 8-win season and really make a statement, vie for the top half of the Big 12, they got to have this. I'm still not convinced BYU is that far along, especially given the difficulty of their schedule. I've got SMU picking against the Cougs. I'm thinking 38-35, something really close like that. I hope they'll go in and there's no moral victories for this team. I don't believe in the moral victory concept, but you do show growth and you do show progress when you're able to go on the road and compete with a team like SMU down to the wire. If it were in Provo, I'd give the Cougars the edge, but since this is on the road at SMU, I think the scare against Nevada woke this team up. I do think they played a much lesser opponent this past week and just dominated there. So I don't think that's necessarily indicative of the team, but the team has enough fight. They've been through a close game. We are sort of reawakening, and that's why I have SMU winning this one in a close one.
Yeah, I actually had that same thought that you said. I was like, oh, is beating Nevada almost in a very close game almost like the worst case scenario because they've come in and I guess
I think it is, yeah.
If they went and got blown out, then maybe it'd be worse because our strength of schedule. But yeah, it woke them up. But then they still have a level of confidence of, hey, we pulled together, we got through this, and so that is worrisome. That did cross my mind, but I still think, I don't know. I think in a close one like this, like the line on this is, I think I think I heard, and I don't know if that's where it's still at, but one of the, the biggest. SMU is one of the biggest favorites over BYU, or BYU is a bigger underdog in this game. It's out of like the entire schedule other than UCF, I think. And so, which is, you can tell I don't bet. How do you word that? So I think that's wild. I don't think that deserves to be the case. I think it will be a closer game. I was thinking more like 28-24. And really, I guess I could see that going either way. I do think it'll be tough, but I think in a close one like that, I just got to go with my heart and with the Cougars and believe, that if they're going to keep this level of confidence together, that this is a game that they have to win, especially if they want to go bowling. And so I think they're dialed in.
I hope. Be fun to see.
Okay, so most of our picks, I mean, it's a lot of chalk on here, I think for the most part, but we do have a few differences. Any major games that you're really excited for or looking forward to this week?
I'm actually excited about Iowa State, Iowa, not
Hmm.
just because there's a pseudo rivalry component to that, but I think Iowa for me is a dark horse to come out and vie for a Big 12 title. Most people think they're a year away from that, but just watching how Matt Campbell's team responded last year, built off of a tough beginning to finish really strong. I think they could vie for that. I'm a little hesitant because they struggled offensively in week one against a lesser opponent. We've seen how that goes. That's usually a bellwether of bad things to come offensively. And Iowa actually put up more than 20 points.
Yes.
So in that sense, this doesn't look like a great pick, but I really do think Iowa State's coming back. I've never bought into the Iowa hype year after year. I feel like they underperform their preseason valuation. So I'm leaning towards Iowa State in that one, but I think it should be a fun matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Iowa often gets overrated. I mean, I guess they make it to the Big Ten championship game, but they're always coming from that West division, which they've gotten rid of now. But yeah, I guess my thought on this was not that I don't believe in Iowa State. I think they have a very good team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they found themselves near the top of the conference this year. But in this game, I'm just looking at it, thinking Iowa State, if they are able to maintain their level of defense and they have any kind of offense, which they've shown this year, because last year they, if I remember correctly, couldn't really even put up points against lesser opponents. And so the fact that they have any kind of offense this year, I think does make them much more dangerous. So I do think, I mean, I think this is a tougher week for Big 12 across the board than last week. Had much more favorable matchups. I think some notable ones here. I just not only did you not put BYU, you decided to put Utah on here, and I just now I'm going to get this one wrong, but I feel good about it.
But just to spite, you'll put Baylor on there. I like that. I like
Yeah,
that. Going
yeah,
with your heart.
yeah, exactly.
I got
So,
too much thinking with my head on this one. I've got to dig deep.
so we both have Nebraska over Colorado. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think Dion's going to ban us for that pick, but besides that, I went back and forth. I actually originally had Colorado winning that one. I don't think Colorado's as bad as most people do. I do think they'll take steps forward this year.
Yeah.
North Dakota State is a killer opponent to open
Very
up with. They may be a better opponent than Nebraska, but and I'm not sold on Matt Rule as someone who's going to turn Nebraska around. Nebraska's just been perennially underperforming since they joined the Big Ten, and I don't know that Dylan Raiola is enough to change those fortunes. And so I was going with Colorado and talked myself out of it because it just isn't. There's just not enough of a track record there to say Colorado can win in big games. Colorado can win in tough games. And I need to see a little bit more from that defense to be able to say, yeah, they can go into Nebraska and win that game. So I'm gonna lean that way, but that was a toss-up pick, and I just ended up with Nebraska.
Yeah. So last year before the season, I was like, man, this guy's all talk. It's all flash. He's bringing in, yeah, maybe some talented guys, but they're all there for the glitz and the glam. I was like, this is the wrong reason. And then the first few games, I was like, okay, they're starting to, they beat a TCU coming off of a national championship game. We won't talk about how that went, but they still made it. And they beat Nebraska, had a wild one with Colorado State. And you're like, okay, they're finding ways to win. There's something there. And then the rest of the season went downhill, and we saw kind of who they really were. And for me in that first game, and I don't want to take anything away from North Dakota State. Oh, wait, yeah. all those Dakota schools, all four of them
Right.
are really good. It's North Dakota State, right? And is a very good FCS program. Yeah, that is not the way you want to start. It's wild. For some context, SIU is in the same conference as North Dakota State, and SIU is 11th, and then I think 10th in some polls in the nation, and they're still only 4th in their conference.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just, and all those are the those Dakota schools up ahead of them, and so it is. They're good teams, perennial winners, and there's something to be said about that. You see draft picks coming out of these FCS programs consistently. So anyway, so I don't want to take anything away from them, but again, you saw some more of those elements. You still can't see that O-line not really holding up, and yet Shadur Sanders was still able to, carve them up. But I think it was also because that was like their only option. They had no other way to really move the ball. So I don't know. I'm just thinking Matt Rule. I don't know a lot about this Nebraska team, but I do think in year 2, really starting to build towards something versus the chaos of Colorado. So that was really my mindset there. I wouldn't be shocked either way. Yeah. So should definitely will be an interesting game. I think that's definitely going to get lots of eyeballs again. But and we didn't do picks last year. We were kind of got together last minute. I think. I mean, last week was a lot of chalk. I think I would have had. There's a few games I probably had wrong. I had Wyoming beating Arizona State. My heart was, or my mind said Penn State, but my heart said West Virginia. So I don't know how I would have really picked there. But yeah, there wasn't too much excitement. So we'll start with week 2 going forward.
Yeah. It's easy to get past week 1 and a lot of preliminary matchups there against smaller schools. I will note the very last game you have on here is one that became much more interesting after last week. Arizona State, as you alluded to, looked shockingly good against Wyoming. I mean, shockingly good. If they are that good this year, and they do, if you look at the recruitment rankings and I think the talent rankings of 4-star, 5-star players in the Big 12, Arizona State is actually near the top. They've just so criminally underperformed year over year. You just can't imagine them making a huge leap this year, but they might. We'll see. So I'm really interested to see how Arizona State and Mississippi State play out because I think both of those schools are fairly good this year. And if Arizona State wins that one, look out. They could be on a tear this year and surprise the entire conference.
Yeah, if they are as good as they looked against Wyoming, then BYU's odds of becoming bowl eligible got a lot tougher.
We need that one.
Is one that we look at and think, okay, BYU has to win that one with a tough schedule like this. You got to take those win against those lesser opponents, and quote unquote. And problem is we're playing all those lesser opponents. Baylor, Arizona State, whatever, all these teams that are in down years. I don't want to say lesser opponents, but are in down years. We're playing all of them at their home. And so, that makes those a little bit tougher, obviously. And so, I just felt like, I don't know. This one was a toss up for me. I'm not super familiar with Mississippi State at this point, since Mike Leach unfortunately passed away. I haven't followed them as closely. And so, but I just felt like, Arizona State might be coming off of that high, and hey,
trap game.
Go in and play an SEC team, even if they're a middling or even lower tier SEC team, still no slouch. So
for sure,
that was kind of my thought on it. But anyway, should be
fun games this week.
Yeah, a lot of fun games and still some more action. And either way, it's college football's back. My question is, how do you feel about Friday night games?
I'm mixed. I don't mind an occasional Friday night game. I love a Saturday game. That's what I love about college football. It's just like rivalries should happen on Thanksgiving weekend, and New Year's Day has some big bowl games, and so I don't mind an occasional Friday night game. I don't like too much of them, but it's fun. It's under the lights. You are the college football game that night, so college football fans are going to tune in, and I think you can pull a good amount of fans to watch your game. So there's advantages to it. I don't mind the occasional one. It's kind of fun this week.
Yeah. So I guess my thought on it is it's kind of nice to go into Saturday. Like relieved. Either you've got the win and you can just kind of enjoy the rest of the day, because BYU's obviously typically playing later in the day, or if it's a loss, then you can just go and focus on other football and just kind of get it out of your system. So either way, there's kind of that advantage.
Yeah, it is kind of nice
to just kind of get it behind you. But yeah, obviously Saturday night or Saturday games are amazing. I just like it's late. I wish if it's going to be late, just be a little bit later. Everyone's in bed, no interruptions. So for those of us with kids, I don't have to, be dealing with kids while I'm also watching the game and have to look like an attentive father. So
my kids are all too old. They stay up late anyway.
Yeah. The good news is when it's on, the boys, I can see them starting to get a little interested and, asking questions and things. And so it's starting.
Oh, it's so much fun. That's a blast when they want to watch it with you and they'll cheer along with you. Man, that's fun. It's fun
I've already
to pass
lost
down
the girls, but
onto sons and daughters.
Yeah. So, all right, excellent. So those are our picks for this week. But I guess the big thing, let us know in the comments. Give us your one word takeaway from week one, how you're feeling. Summarize it up and let us know how you feel about that in the comments. And then also, again, please be sure to like, subscribe, so that way you can catch all of our content throughout the week that we put out. And then, of course, we'll be out here every week, kind of recapping and making our picks for the upcoming weekend. Adam, any last words on all this excitement with college football back?
Go Cougs, we're back. We're back. Going the distance this year.
All right. Go. You picked us to, what are you talking about? You picked us to lose.
I'm of two minds here. Well, still a fan.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Go Cougs.